Hey, welcome to Cooking with Grandmommy. As you can see, it's fall, y'all. Things are turning orange and brown and we're starting to get some color on the leaves. Beautiful. My favorite time of year. Remember now, at Grandmommy's house, food is all about love and everybody's welcome. And today, going right along with our harvest time, fall time theme, we're going to be making pumpkin rolls. Pumpkin rolls can be made ahead. You can freeze them up for Thanksgiving. Yummy. Anytime, all the time. So, let's get started. Now, the pumpkin roll recipe calls for a 10 by 15 pan. This is the size. I have made mine for years before I owned 10 by 15 pans in this size, which is 13 by 18. I use these pans for everything. I use them for cookie sheets. I use them for cooking and baking. I just like to keep things simple. So I usually make them in the 13 by 18, but the recipe says use a 10 by 15. I'll tell you, it'll work out in either pan. So I'm going to get my pan ready, and here's what you want to do. You want to put some cooking spray in the bottom, put a piece of wax paper in, and make sure that the wax paper comes up high enough over the edges here on the ends. This will help you get the pumpkin roll out of the pan, and then put a little more spray on top of the wax paper. So our pan is ready. Our recipe is pretty simple. You want to just use canned pumpkin. One canned pumpkin will make about 3 pumpkin rolls. We're going to start with 2/3 cup of pumpkin. Then we're going to add 1 cup of sugar, 3/4 cup of flour, and this is one of those recipes where you can just throw it all in and stir it up together. We're going to add 3 eggs, the dry ingredients are 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ginger. See, that sounds like fall, doesn't it? Cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg. Come on out of there now. I love the smell of cinnamon. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. That'll get our baking powder working. Activate it so our pumpkin roll will raise up. Now, I'm going to mix this up. I've got my mixer on about number 3. Just throw it all in together, stir it all up. Now that all my ingredients are wet, I'm going to turn it up 1 more to number 4. And I'm going to beat this, maybe for just a minute. It doesn't take long. You just want to make sure that your eggs are whipped up real well and blended together. It's looking good in there and smelling even better. All that cinnamon and nutmeg stirring up and ginger. Yum. And all these spices are being highlighted in the store right now, right out in the middle aisles. Find all these good fall flavors. I just love cooking, can you tell? I hope you do too. Cooking is fun because it's very creative. You start with all these different things and end up with something delicious and lovely. The best parts are, though, you get to share it with other people, and of course you get to eat it yourself. So, I encourage you, get to cooking. Practice. You'll mess up, I'm sure. I did too. But I just kept trying. You know why? Because I like to eat good food. Alright, so our batter is all mixed up. I'm going to pour it into the pan with the wax paper and the spray. It's going to be, this is a thin cake. If you've had pumpkin roll before, It's what you might call like a jelly roll, because once we cool this cake down, we're going to make a cream cheese filling and roll it up in the middle. Yummy, yummy. So this is not a thick cake, so I'm going to take this spatula, spread my batter around. Try to pay attention anytime you're spreading batter. Pay attention to your corners. A lot of times the dough ends up piled up in the middle of the pan and the corners get a little too done while the middle is still baking. So I'm going to make sure I get plenty of dough over in the corner of my pan. Even it out a little bit, and don't worry, it won't be even. No matter how hard I've tried, it goes like this when I take it out, but it's okay. When you roll it all up, it looks beautiful. Got some extra dough here. Let's find a place for it. All right. It's going in the oven at 350, and I'm going to bake it for between 13 and 15 minutes. All right, our pumpkin roll is finished. The timer has gone off. Now this is a critical step, and this is one that took me a while to learn. When I first started making pumpkin rolls, I lived in Tennessee, and my sister, my baby sister Val Medley, a bunch of you probably know her. She's a great baker and a good cook. She sent me this recipe, and I kept making it, and I'd roll up my cakes and they'd fall apart, and I'd try again. I'd call Val and say, what am I doing wrong? And I'd try again. Finally, she told me what she forgot to say. You roll your cake up in a towel. So I have out a tea towel, a dish towel, whatever, a kitchen towel, and it's kind of a light cotton towel. It's not the terry cloth. And I'm sprinkling some powdered sugar all over it. Now I'm going to grab my cake out of the oven. And I'm going to take this cake and dump it right on the towel and the powdered sugar. All right. You know that wax paper we had on with the spray? It's going to peel right off your cake. Had a little hole trying to pop up there. That's all right. Just pushing back down. Dough was a little bit thin right there. Start on this corner. Here we go. So, I'm going to pull all the wax paper off. Does that smell good? So, the towel has powdered sugar. The cake is on it. And now I'm going to roll my towel up right with the cake. And you know what? When you do this, your cake won't break. But I probably threw 4 of these in the trash because I couldn't figure it out. Now, all rolled up in the towel with the powdered sugar, and I'm going to put this in my refrigerator and let it cool off. All right. Now remember I said that each can makes about 3 of these, so I've had one in there cooling. And I suggest cooling it about 40 minutes to an hour. You can check on it. You can tell by touching it. If it's cold, then you're ready to put the filling in. So this one has just come out of the fridge, and I'm going to stir up the cream cheese filling. This recipe calls for 1 whole 8-ounce brick of cream cheese, 4 tablespoons of butter, which is half a stick, and at room temperature. Both of these should be at room temperature. 1 cup of powdered sugar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. I'm going to mix this up together, starting out a little slow so I don't splash powdered sugar all over the kitchen. You know how that goes. And you'll probably want to stir this for about a minute also. You want it to be blended real well, and the more you stir it with the beaters this way, it'll fluff it up, make it a little bit lighter, easier to spread. I'm using my, I don't know, 30, 40-year-old Tupperware bowl. How do you like that? As you keep mixing this and it gets fluffier, it will also look whiter as the butter gets blended in. Just Just make sure everything's smooth. You've gotten all the chunks out. All right, there we go. Now, the recipe calls for using 1 cup of nuts. You can use pecans or walnuts. Since I serve groups of people, you know, from little kids to older, sometimes kids don't like nuts in theirs. Sometimes people have an allergy to them. So what I do is I wait until I put the filling in, and then I sprinkle nuts on half of it, on just half of my pumpkin roll. So one end will be just cream cheese, one end will be the cream cheese with the nuts in it. So you just pour your cream cheese filling out onto the cake. If you have any little cracks or holes, we're going to fill them right up with this cream cheese mixture. This is a good recipe for beginners because there's a lot of forgiveness in it. Forgiveness, what a great term. Forgiveness. I'm so glad that there is forgiveness through Jesus. What would we do without him? How could we live without him? He came that we all could have forgiveness of our sin. So, spread the cream cheese around. Edge to edge. I'm going to leave just a little bit out because I like to seal up my ends real pretty. But you don't have to. Alright, so I have this on, and now I'm going to, I like using walnuts in mine. So I have some walnuts here in my little nut grinder. And I'm going to do just one side. I'm going to just sprinkle some walnuts in for those people who like that extra flavor in theirs, but I'm leaving half of it plain for people who don't want the walnuts in there. Alright, now that I've got the filling in and I've got my half and half, I'm just going to start rolling it up. Pulling the towel back as I roll the cake forward. And these towels wash up great. You know, sugar just melts when the hot water hits it, so it's not a big deal to get them cleaned up after you have rolled up cake dough and powdered sugar in them. Got a little coming out there on the edge. I'm going to just get that on my knife. So, get a little bit of cream cheese on your knife, and then it just closes up the end nice. See, it just makes it look very pretty on the end. And then on this end, when I put the cream cheese filling here, I'm going to take some walnuts, cover this side, and then we'll know this is the side. We'll start cutting over here for those who want to have the walnuts in their pumpkin roll. Now, at this point, you can freeze this. You can serve it fresh now. You'll put it in the fridge until you're ready to serve it. And so a good way to store them is I have a piece of wax paper, a piece of foil, and put just a little bit of powdered sugar on here. When you store your pumpkin roll, see where that seam is? Try to store it with that down. So that will press it and keep it closed and keep your filling nice and tight in there. So at this point, I'm going to wrap the wax paper around. I'm going to do the foil over the wax paper, and right here at this point, you could put this in your freezer. And then when you're ready to serve it, just sit it out in time to thaw, and it's all ready to serve. So if you're going to be busy doing a lot of other things for your Thanksgiving meals, you've got dessert all ready to go. So, pumpkin roll for Thanksgiving, pumpkin roll for the fall, pumpkin roll whenever you're hungry for something that's got those harvest spices in it and some cream cheese filling. What a great combination. Thank you for joining me. Remember, at Grandmommy's house, food is all about love, and everybody is welcome. Bye-bye.